I think the objectives of content marketing and the objectives of native advertising are very similar. If native advertising could fall under content marketing as a tool thereof, with native advertising, people become quite confused. If we think about it as just traditional kind of advertorials, that's what we're doing with native advertising. So it's a paid way of getting your content out in a seamless kind of way online. Content marketing more implies the creation of content as well. So how are you creating your content? Where are you distributing that content? And how are you distributing that content? One of which those forms could be native advertising. Native advertising really encompasses kind of any kind of form of advertising. So think about it as an advertorial. So an advertorial or sponsored content would be native advertising. It's the easiest way to describe it because people can relate to what an advertorial is because we've been doing them for years. Native advertising, the term itself implies that the advertising is seen seamlessly within the digital context. So you could also argue that SEO kind of posts, social media advertising, these are forms of native advertising because they fall seamlessly into the actual way that digital content is produced and is seen by people. So native advertising, the key is that it has to kind of look as similar to the editorial as possible, and it seamlessly blends into the platform. If we look at content marketing in general, like I said, we've got the creation of different forms of content. Also then most importantly is the distribution, or how do you get reach on your content. So there's a lot of people that are creating really great content, but the problem is nobody sees it. So native advertising is just one of those ways that we try and amplify your content and drive traffic back to your site. So you could be using kind of influencers, you could be using certain bloggers to write about your content, you could be looking at doing sponsored stories, which would form part of native advertising. You could be looking at doing social paid advertising, SEO, Google paid ads, any number of these kind of profiles of advertising to drive traffic back to your content. It also means that you then have to use your organic kind of rented platforms, if you like, as well as paid for editorial or paid for content, which is where the native advertising comes in. The third aspect that we haven't really spoken about is programmatic sponsored content. So programmatic kind of elements where we have content that is then, it's almost like the recommendation engine that we used to see on Amazon.com. So if you like the following pieces of content, if you've read this story and you like the story, you may be interested in the following additional 8 pieces of content. We see programmatic sponsored content on a lot of the big syndicated sites, particularly when it comes to entertainment and kind of gossipy news, if you like. They've been doing it for a long time. So all of those different aspects are just ways that you need to amplify your content and make sure that people actually see what you're producing. We haven't seen enough sponsored content, I mean programmatic kind of sponsored content locally to actually kind of know. What I will say is, in my opinion though, I think it's a really nice way for people to discover additional content. I think it starts bringing publishers together in terms of cross-platform promotion of their content. For me, the only thing that's lost is that obviously if your content is kind of within a format which looks native, so you've already done some aspects of editorial sponsored content, if that content is then being served across different platforms, it tends to lose its seamless kind of look and feel, if that makes sense. So obviously you're going to find that by syndicating your content across lots of different channels, you're going to lose the fact that it may not look like those channels, therefore it starts to look like paid for content. So that's the one kind of issue which is a little bit sticky. But I think that the future of the internet, the internet on the whole and social media is based on the power of recommendation. So why not kind of have that? Whether it's recommended by a computer based on keywords or whether it's recommended by a person are two different kind of aspects we can argue. But I think that the fact is that programmatic is kind of here to stay. And I think it's going to get more and more refined as we go along, which is only good for the industry as well.